Uncle Ariel here to shake the matrix, expand our minds, and make us all think. How are you guys all doing this beautiful grand morning? It's good to be here, and we've got a great topic for you guys this morning. We're going to talk about we are living in a time where attention is under attack. Let's face it, since the day we taken our first breath, we've been getting our attention drawn away from anything but the inner kingdom. You know, the screens on our walls, the screens in our hands even, that constant noise of war, the noise of division, the noise of fear. And I mean, come on, the noise of the noise of the news. I mean, the noise of in our schools, the noise in our churches, the noise in our grocery stores, the noise in our jobs. All of this is competing for something very precious. It's competing for our attention. And when attention is constantly being pulled outward, the self begins to fragment. The mind becomes scattered, and the heart becomes tired, and the spirit becomes forgotten. And so, what happens? Many people are not really living in the present moment then, are they? They're living in reaction, distraction, and everything else. And they're living in the opinions of others. And they're living in the demand of the system. And it wants that. They're living in a world, told that matters instead of remembering what actually really matters. We're told that everything is outward. We've become mentally absent. And we're everywhere but within ourselves. We know everything outward but nothing within. And I believe this is one of the great crises of our time. Because if you cannot remain with yourself, then everything outside of you will just start to control you now, won't it? If you cannot stay within your own breath, then the world will train your nervous system, and it'll own your nervous system. You know, we put our energy into so many places, but where it really is meant to be. We allow people to pull our energy away from us. We allow their comments, distractions, gossip, things they do, the world, the news, videos, scrolling, TV screens. But the thing is, if we cannot sit within our own thoughts, then what happens? The world will program our minds. And that's been happening. We've been hijacked, And if you don't know what you want in life, then you become an easy to distract now, don't you? If you do not know who you are, then you become easy to define. And if you are not rooted within, then everything without becomes a force of trying to name you and identify you and title you and everything. And that's why so many people are so exhausted. Why we have no energy, or we feel like we have no energy, which is a lie. Your energy didn't go anywhere. You just got distracted. And that is why so many people are exhausted, and so many people are anxious, and so many people are confused, and so many people are even angry, and so many people are disconnected, addicted, lost, because they have been taught to live outside of themselves. We have been taught to focus on everybody else, focus on everyone's opinions. We've been taught to focus on other people's behaviors and compare, focus on mistakes, politics and labels and people's tribes and people they hang out with, focus on who is right and who is wrong and draw lines in the sand, but not on what is happening within. And I want to say this clearly. Presence is not starting, or it's not a starting point. You get to presence through focus. Focus is a starting point. See, presence is just the outcome of focus. See, a focused mind becomes a present mind. And a present mind becomes a clear mind. And a clear mind becomes a free mind. And that is why the practice matters so much. Because this world is fed us with distractions, so then focus would be the one thing that would shift, would it not? Because you do not accidentally become present at all. You train your presence. You practice it. You return to it. You build it. You protect it. And you strengthen it. And this is even something that the ancient Stoics understood. Morning, grand risings. Good to see you, Ashley. Even Marcus Aurelius understood that the outer world would always contain pressure, change, uncertainty, difficulty, and loss. But he knew that the peace does not come from controlling everything around you. Peace comes from outgoverning yourself. It comes from mastering your inner responses. It comes from refusing to let the noise and chaos of the outside even occupy the throne of your mind. Epictetus taught us that disturb us is not the event itself, but our judgment about it. That is powerful, because it means that even that being disturbed is in your hands. It means the mind is not helpless victim of reality just because reality is chaotic and distracting. The mind is participating in it. You chose that. So we don't get to say, well, they did this, the system. No, because at the end of the day, you chose that reality. The way we interpret, react, and assign changes everything. And that is also why attention is sacred, because it's in our hands. Because attention is not a mental energy. It's a life force. It's where we choose it to go, and life flows through that. Where your attention goes, identity grows. Where your attention goes, the inner world is shaped. So your attention is scattered all day long, then your life's going to be scattered all day long now, isn't it? If your attention is constantly being hijacked, your inner being is going to feel chaotic and hijacked now, isn't it? Because your attention is everywhere else but where it should be. See, if your attention belonged in the world, then the world will shape you. Do you like the way the world's shaped? But see, if your attention comes back home, then your life begins to return to you and you realize what's in your hands. I write about this in my book about the shadow matrix, and I use the language because so many of us are living inside a system of distraction, fear, illusion, and even conditioning. Without even realizing it, we allow this world to take us on these whirlwinds, and they're trained. We are being trained to look away from ourselves, to point fingers. We're being trained to identify with masks, with roles, titles, labels, stories, trauma, and tribes, and external images, and how we look upon this and that, and that kind of world. Remembering becomes an act of liberation. Remembering who you are, remembering what matters, and remembering what you came here to be and do. Remembering what you love. Remembering your breath. Remembering your stillness. And remembering your center. Because the world is very loud and you forget. The world is very loud at turning your eyes outward. And the world is very loud at keeping you busy enough that you never sit long enough to hear your own soul. And the truth is, many people are not even aware that they are being trained to be distracted. They think distraction is normal. They think constant stimulation is normal. And they think that checking, scrolling, reacting, comparing, and consuming all day is normal. But it's not normal. Not for the soul. See, it may be common for society to be busy, and they even encourage it. What do you mean you sat there and did nothing today and just meditated in the forest? See, nature, natural, society, but it's not natural for our inner being to have that. A human being is not designed to live fragmented and to live on the opinions and ideas of what others think. A human being was not designed to be mentally everywhere at once. A human being was not designed to be ruled by every alert, every opinion, and every emotional surge, and every headline, and every text, and every conflict, and every comment. That kind of life tears the mind apart, and all it does is live them in chaos. And then everyone wonders why peace feels so distant, because we don't even know what it is. We wonder why silence feels uncomfortable, because we wonder why sitting feels so hard. And we wonder why our thoughts feel loud. We wonder why we are constantly trying to escape ourselves. But what if the answer is not escape? What if the answer is focus? What if the answer is to practice being with yourself? What if the answer is to begin where you are? What if the answer is to spend 5 minutes a day to focus in stillness and allow that practice to become a way of life? Because if we have spent years practicing distraction, then it makes sense that focus will feel difficult and uneasy at first, right? But difficulty just means the muscle has not been trained yet. If a person has never practiced stillness, then stillness will feel unfamiliar. If a person has never practiced presence, then presence will feel strange, right? But if a person has never practiced observing their mind, then the mind will seem like a storm. But storms do not last forever. And you are not the storm. No. You are the witness. You are the awareness beneath the noise. And you are the one who can step back and see what is happening. You are the one who can notice a thought without even becoming that thought. You are the one who can feel the emotion without being consumed by it. You are the one who can hear the noise without obeying it. That is power. That is freedom. That is the beginning of mastery. And the ancient wisdom traditions all point towards the same truth in different ways. The Stoics called us back to discipline, virtue, and mystics called us back to the inner silence. The prophets called us back to remembering. And the philosophers called us back to truth. And the psychologists called us back to awareness. And neuroscience, well, now it shows us repeated tension reshapes the brain, and that means what you practice becomes easier. What you rehearse becomes stronger. What you feed becomes dominant. So if you keep feeding fear, then fear is going to get stronger and rule your life. If you keep feeding comparison, comparison gets stronger. If you keep feeding outrage, outrage gets stronger. If you keep feeding distraction, distraction gets stronger. But if you feed clarity, clarity gets stronger. If you feed silence, silence gets stronger. If you feed gratitude, gratitude gets stronger. If you feed focus, focus gets stronger. And eventually, what was once difficult becomes natural. That is how transformation happens. Not in one emotional moment alone, not in one peak experience, but in repeated practice again and again. Choosing again and again. This is why I keep coming back to the idea that presence is the outcome of focus. Because presence is not a random gift. Presence is something we cultivate. Presence is something we protect. Presence is something we earn through devotion. And the world around us is trying to steal it. Every system that profits from your scattered mind wants your attention fragmented. Every platform that profits from your compulsive checking wants your mind divided. Every culture that profits from your insecurities wants you to stay externally orientated. Because if you are always looking outward, you will not look inward. And if you do not look inward, you will not see the kingdom within. In my book, I write that we become caught in a shadow matrix. And when I say that, I mean I'm speaking about the false structures that keep people in fear, in separation, in performance, and in distraction. It is the mind that says your worth is external. It is the mind that says your value is in how you are seen. It is in the mindset that says you are only as important as your image, your status, your title, your success, your side, your group, or your approval. But that is a lie. You are not your performance. You are not your public image, and you are not your title. You're not your wounds. You are not the opinions of the crowd. You are not the story that was handed to you. You are deeper than all of that. And the more you remember, that the more the shadow loosens its grips. And that is why the practice to focus is important. Because when you focus, you stop feeding the false world. And when you focus, you stop obeying every distraction. And when you focus, you begin to reclaim your inner authority. And when you focus, you begin to remember your own desire. And when you focus, you begin to hear your own voice. And when you hear your own voice, again, well, then life just really begins to reorganize around truth then. And now let us bring to science. See, the whole human brain is not static. It is adaptable. What you pay attention to shapes your neural pathways. Your brain learns from repetition. Your nervous system learns from repetition. And your body learns from repetition. This is why people can become conditioned into anxiety. This is why people can become conditioned to hypervigilance. This is why people can become conditioned into needing noise to feel comfortable. The system adapts to what is repeatedly given. And if you give it constant stimulation, your nervous system begins to expect stimulation. If you live in constant conflict, your nervous system begins to expect conflict. And if you live in constant comparison, your nervous system begins to expect competition. But if you give the system stillness, breath, rhythm, and focus, the system can learn a new pattern. That is why 5 minutes a day matters. That is why daily practice matters. That is why repetition matters, because the brain is learning either way. See, you are always training something. If not focus and distraction. If not peace, then agitation. If not clarity, then confusion. If not presence, then absence. That is the reality. And that is where nature becomes one of our greatest teachers. Look at the way nature moves. The tree does not panic when the season changes. The river does not resist its flow. The sun does not ask permission to rise, and the moon does not compare itself to the stars. The ocean does not apologize for its depth. Everything in nature has a rhythm. Everything in nature has a timing, and everything in nature is intelligent. And when you step out in nature, we begin to remember what we are not, that we are not machines. We are living beings. We are cyclic beings. We are breathing beings. We are learning beings. We are beings that need rest, stillness, reflection, and reconnection. And a tree teaches that. A tree teaches us rootedness. A river teaches us surrender, and a mountain teaches us steadiness. The sky teaches us spacious, the ocean teaches us depth, and the season teaches us change. Nature keeps us saying the same thing in 1,000 forms. Return. Return to what is real. Remember that it's the kingdom within, not the kingdom out there. Return to what is simple. Return to what is steady. Return to what does not need performance to exist. That is why so many people feel restored in nature. Because nature does not ask them to wear a mask. Nature does not ask them to perform, and nature does not care about their life. Nature does not care about their image. That's what I love about nature. I don't give a shit. I'm like the honey badger. I don't care what anyone thinks. Your opinion doesn't make me exist in my life or not. Maybe that's the thing that's missing in everyone's life. Just a bit of nature where they could stop being distracted and focusing on what other people's images are like. Focus on their own. And maybe that is what we have been missing. Not more information, not more noise, not more commentary and ridiculous comments, but being. One who projects to another, is not confident within themselves. It takes more strength to look within and to not project onto another, now doesn't it? See, true being, silent being, aware being, present being. And when we are present, we start to notice how much of our life has been lived on autopilot. How much of our day has been given to things that do not even freaking matter. How much of our mind have been occupied by what is happening everywhere else. How much energy has been spent on opinions, given a rip when anyone thinks, reactions, fears, assumptions, explaining oneself, stories. Then we start to ask a deeper question. Right? Exactly, right, Ashley? Hello from Russia. How are you doing? I actually want to ask you a question in a second. What do I actually want? Not what does the world want from me. Not what does the crowd expect. Not what image should I maintain. Not what role have I been assigned. What do I want? What gives my life meaning? What makes me come alive? What brings me into alignment? And what is the next right step? Because a person without clarity is a person easy to distract. A person without remembrance is a person easy to control. And a person without focus is a person easy to scatter. But a person who remembers can no longer be ruled the same way. And this is why I keep saying, remember. Remember yourself. Remember your power. Remember your breath and remember your center. Remember your inner kingdom. Remember that you have been practicing distractions, so now you can practice focus. Remember that what was learned can be unlearned. Remember that what was conditioned can be healed. Remember that what was fragmented can be gathered again. Remember that what you do not have to live mentally absent, and you can come home. And that home begins within, here. A lot of people think they need more, more time, but the truth is many of us have time and we are just not using it consciously. A lot of people think they need perfect circumstances, but the truth is focus can begin in imperfect conditions. A lot of people think they need a new life before they can have peace, but the truth is peace can begin right now in breath, in this breath, in this moment, in this awareness, in this gift. And that is the opportunity. That is the doorway. That is the practice. A daily practice, a quiet practice, a scattered, a sacred, not scattered everywhere, but taking a moment for a sacred moment of peace. And if you even just take 5 minutes a day to begin to focus on the within, you are no longer submitting to the distractions of as you become your own master. And you begin to reclaim your own life again. And once you do that consistently, something changes. Your thoughts slow down, your awareness sharpens, your body softens, your spirit steadies, and your inner world becomes less chaotic. Your decisions become cleaner. Your emotions become easier to witness, and your life becomes more aligned. And perhaps, most importantly, you begin to feel like yourself again. Not a version that you built by the world, not a version distracted by gossip, not a version built by fear, not a version built by trauma, not the version of you built by survival, but the real you. The one beneath the noise, the one beneath the labels, the one beneath the performance, the one beneath the distractions, the one who has always been there. And when you find that place, you realize something beautiful. You were never as lost as you thought. You were only buried beneath attention that had been stolen. You were only buried beneath habits that had been repeated. You were only buried beneath a world that benefits from your forgetfulness. But now you remember. And remembering is power. Remembering is healing. Remembering is returning. And remembering is the beginning of freedom. So I want to leave you with this. If your life has felt scattered, do not shame yourself. If your mind has been noisy, do not condemn yourself. If you have been distracted, do not call yourself broken. Just begin again. Begin with breath. Begin with silence. Begin with focus. Begin with 5 minutes. Begin with 1 moment of honesty. Begin with 1 return. Because the mind can be trained. The spirit can be strengthened. And the heart can be softened. And the life that has been scattered can be gathered. The world may keep trying to hijack your attention, but you do not have to surrender to it. The world may keep you trying to defend, but you do not have to accept every definition. The world may keep you trying to pull you outward, but you can still turn inward. And when you turn inward, you'll find that the kingdom was never far away. It was within you all along. So let's practice. Let us remember. Let us focus. Let us return. And let us become present. And let presence become our way of life. So hey, from Russia, you still there? Thanks everyone for joining, those of you who came. And may you be able to focus and find your center again. Peace and love. We'll see you next time.